Welcome to the Back Office Show, your peek behind the privacy curtain of successful healthcare operations. Get ready to learn how every bedpan is a potential gold mine in every staff meeting, a strategic summit. All right, I'm getting a little carried away here. Get ready to learn from the grandmasters of healthcare, their secrets for success. And now, let's welcome your host, Steve Shane.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us back on the Back Office Show. I am very excited for a fun episode we're going to have here with Julie Thorson. Julie, welcome to the show.
Very excited to be here, Steve. Thank you for having me.
It's really such a pleasure. I will give a quick intro. I just want to quickly thank everybody who's been listening and following through all of our episodes. Yes, that means you who's been listening. You may have skipped the intro. You want to go right to the good stuff. So we're here to bring you some good stuff. As a way of introduction, Julie is the head coach. Yes, you heard that right. Head coach at Friendship Haven CCRC in Iowa. She's also the CEO, but we're going to talk about the fact that she's the head coach. I should mention she's also a coach at Leading Age National Academy, also at the Leading Age Iowa locally. She was brought to my attention when I noticed that she was voted as Column of the Year and McKnight's for 2024. She had a great article. Very impressive and also very intriguing. Julie, what's with the title head coach? I'm sure there's a story behind that.
What's with the title? Well, I am a coach's daughter at heart. My dad was a football coach for 30 plus years here in Fort Dodge. And I've been the CEO here since 2012. But as life started happening and things started changing here at Friendship Haven, I found myself coaching more and more. And so I don't know if I gave myself the title or if team members started calling me the head coach, but I was like, you know what? Yeah, I do coach more than CEO. Sounds so institutional and hierarchical. And I look at my role as a coach, and being the CEO, I guess you could say I'm the head coach.
I love it. And would you say that every leader technically is really a head coach in a leadership position? That's what you're doing.
If you're not coaching every single day, I think you're missing a huge opportunity.
I think we got to think of like a C title that fits in with coach. Instead of CEO, it could be chief coach or something like that. I think that if people get comfortable with having it, CCO on their name, their label, they'd probably feel more comfortable being called head coach. But kudos to you.
Well, I think we're onto something there, Steve. We believe that leadership has very little to do with title or position at all. And it has everything to do with who you are and your character. So even on our name tags, we don't have title or position. We have our passion or purpose. It's not like somebody's running around our campus looking at a name tag to figure out who the CEO is. My expectation is that people talk to one another. And that was a big change we made years ago. Now I've messed up my name tag. But it's really a visible sign of our culture and how we look at ourselves and look at each other. It's really not about position or title, or it's about who you are and your character.
That's very, very respectable, Julie. And I'm curious, I can't see what it says on your name tag, but what is your passion that you speak of?
So my passion, I'm going to focus. My passion is leadership. And that kind of goes right along with, now I've officially, no, I want to make sure
Sorry.
It goes along with my passion, and everything I do here at Friendship Haven absolutely revolves around leadership. So that's where my passion comes from. Of course, passion and purpose comes from our vision statement, which is people living full lives with faith, passion, and purpose. And when we talk about people, we're not only talking about the residents who live here and call Friendship Haven home, but all of us who work here. We want everyone to feel like they're able to pursue life with faith, passion, and purpose when they're here. That is why passion or purpose is on everyone's name tag.
And I can tell from speaking with you and from hearing from you that it's not just a mission statement that goes up on your website. This is something you actually implement and you really follow, not as just, verbiage on a website. It's real to you and it's really impressive. I'm just thinking also that having that on a name tag is a real great way for a conversation opener. Any resident family member that come in, it shows you're open for conversation. We're open to talk. It takes away a lot of that rigidness that a lot of other facilities may have when somebody walks in for the first time, and employees too. Do you see that?
Absolutely. It's a great conversation starter. And if I could politely remind you, Steve, we're not a facility. That we call that the F word here. We are their home. We come to work in our residents' home every day. I think in our field, it's important that we use terms that make sense and that matter. And even that slight little, nuance of a long-term care facility, I hate hearing that. And we say it in our own colleagues say it all the time. We are someone's home. We get to work in someone's home. And I think it's really important to make that distinction. But to answer your question, yes, this is a great conversation starter. A lot of fellow employees look at each other's name tags. Residents read. I mean, we also have the names big enough so that, residents can see them. And they're constantly asking, a lot of our team members have my family. Oh, your family, how many children do you have? Tell me about your family. It's a great way to open the door to getting to know and really appreciate the people we serve.
I love it. That's really good. And thank you for pointing out the fact that
Sorry, no offense.
I'm not offended. I actually love it. I think that's really respectable because that's really what you're doing. And like I said, you're implementing what you believe. It's nice and admirable. And as a way to punish myself, I'm marking how many times I say the word facility in our conversation, because I will slip. And if I do it more than 10, I'm going to have to figure out a consequence. But that was one. So pull it out if we get to 2.
There we go.
Okay. So, Julie, I know from your columns that I've read, you stress this very strange idea that a lot of people don't really, implement in, what's the word we're going to use instead of facility?
Our campus, our community, their home.
Community. I like that. Yeah. In their community, they don't really implement because it's a strange idea you've introduced of having fun at work. Isn't that something you do at birthday parties or at holiday events and that's it? Are we supposed to be having more fun at work in our communities?
Absolutely. If we aren't having fun, how can we expect the people that live here to be having fun? If we view it as, drudgery and, oh gosh, I gotta be, just living the dream. That's my favorite. So sarcastic. If we aren't truly enjoying ourselves at work, there's a problem. There's a problem. A lot of times when I speak with other communities or other leaders, I'll say, on a scale of 1 to 10, most days, how much fun are you having? If you're consistently answering below a 5, I would look inward. We all know there's a lot of pressure in our field. There's standards, there's circumstances where people working with people, there's a high amount of stress, a high amount of regulations. As leaders, I think it is imperative for us to add levity, to add humor, to laugh, to not take ourselves too seriously, to dress up on dress up days, to look foolish. We talk a lot about it is absolutely okay and expected to laugh with residents. Never okay to laugh at residents, of course, but I am not so, I am not above of making a fool of myself to have everybody else feel a little bit better about the day and have a laugh. And laughter, we know, I'm no scientist, but everyone knows laughter is actually the best medicine. Laughter can add a little bit of comfort in tense relationships. It can bring people down a notch. We've been running so high for so long, we forgot that we are blessed with the opportunity to work in people's homes, and it's our responsibility as leaders to keep that forefront. And if we aren't personally having fun, we need to ask ourselves why.
That's a very important point. And I think all the areas that you brought up, why it's important is equally powerful. But let me ask you, Julie, I thought as my job as a leader, my job is to make sure my residents are rehabilitated, make sure that my census is where it should be. Why is fun the goal that I should be aiming towards? Why is happiness and something of people being upbeat? That's a nice fluffy thing, but why is that so important for me to be a leader and focus on that? I've got other important things to focus on.
That's an excellent point. I believe if you enjoy what you're doing, quality and satisfaction and engagement improvement all also improves. If the tasks are your number one priority versus the overall outcome, I think quality suffers. So let's take, for example, our therapy team, which, by the way, our therapy team is all in-house. We don't partner with another company. They're a part of our campus, which adds so many opportunities because I believe they really buy into our culture. They're telling jokes when they're going through physical therapy. They are smiling. They are laughing. The relationship is there. Something as simple as that, I believe, leads to better outcomes. If we're only focused on productivity and efficiency and, length of stay and all these things, it's my opinion that things suffer. Now, don't misunderstand. There needs to be checks and audits, and we need to make sure we're doing everything that we possibly can within reason. And you hire good people to do that. I'm saying from my seat, my responsibility is to not micromanage the efficiency of our therapy department. My responsibility is to make sure our therapy team feels appreciated, is having fun, feels challenged, has opportunities for growth and advancement. They're working on their personal leadership development journeys. And that's where I look at my responsibility. All of those requirements and regulations, you hire great people and you get out of their way.
That's what delegation is all about.
Yeah.
And it sounds like what you're saying is that there's a direct correlation. Quality and outcomes are directly correlated to the people doing it. We're in the people business. And if those people are happy, they're satisfied, they're motivated, they're having fun, they're going to do a better job.
Absolutely. I believe that 100%.
Which leads into another one of your articles that was so lovely to read, which is the 4 Ps, which you mentioned about how to have fun at work. Could you elaborate on what those 4 Ps are? Probably our listeners are not familiar with it, but I'm sure it's something that they'd want to jot down.
Well, and this is just according to me, because somebody asked me the question you asked earlier, why is it important and how do you have fun at work? Which seems like such a obvious thing to who doesn't want to have fun in their jobs and their careers. But I think because of the hand we've been dealt, like you said, there's so many other things that overshadow just having fun because we have so many responsibilities. So when I really took a look at it, I really broke it down this way. The first is, of course, personal ways. Personally, do you have relationships at work that make you smile, that make you feel good about yourself, that you can laugh with, that you can have fun with? Those personal relationships are absolutely so important. And we know that all employees have connections at work, right? There's lots of studies out there, and this is a topic for another time, but people will sometimes challenge me and say, you shouldn't be friends with people at work. And I say, oh my gosh, are you kidding? Of course you should be friends with people you work with. Of course you should do things with them outside of the normal business hours. You have to have respect for boundaries. And when you're together after hours, you shouldn't be talking about work. You should be focused on your personal fun relationship. But there's ways to navigate that. So the first one is of course, personally. And then practical things right away. How do you start a meeting? How do you start a huddle? And when I say practical things, it takes less than 30 seconds to look up 10 dad jokes on the fancy interweb, right? And start a meeting with a dad joke. It sounds so silly, But everybody loves a dad joke, and it lightens
They
the
might
mood.
moan and roll their eyes, but it lightens the mood. Exactly.
Right. Roll your eyes all day long. Tell another one. See what happens. When one person starts laughing, another person starts laughing, and then, 3 or 4 or 5 people, and I'm not talking about taking 30 minutes. I'm saying 30 seconds is a practical way, to add fun to work. I can come back to practical ways here in a bit, but I want to make sure I do this or get through the 4 before personally, practically, publicly. So I think we talk about our field and how we are perceived. You hear about our field more often when things go wrong or are catastrophic or bad news. It is our responsibility, because nobody's going to do it for us to publicly share the fun things that happen here. I make no apologies. We are we post social media. Our marketing director does such a wonderful job of promoting and sharing the fun. We've developed a great relationship with our local newspaper. They are looking for good news stories all the time, and they are out here frequently providing great coverage of the fun that we're having. But also, not only are the residents having fun, but I think it's our responsibility to show that employees are having fun and that we don't take ourselves too seriously. We did a silly campaign a few years ago that I think I was the brunt of the joke, but we did kind of an office. You have to dig back a ways in our social media on Friendship Haven, but that generated a lot of laughter, and that was a time a couple of years ago where we needed some laughter. Right. So publicly, I think it's important to share that. What's that?
Can you share what it was? You mentioned there was something that was done a while back, but what was it?
Okay, so it was a takeoff. It was a takeoff of The Office, right? Yeah. And I was,
the boss,
Michael Scott, and making a fool of myself, and I got kicked out of the resident choir, and I tried to teach the swimmers in the pool how to swim appropriately, and it was just silly. It was just silly, and of course you have to be careful. We take our work very, very seriously. I would say, this is my life's work, but there's always opportunities to have to introduce laughter. And then the last one, I talked about personally having fun, but there are those relationships, to kind of tie this back, where you don't need to share with everybody what you're doing to have fun with those you work with. There are times that some of that fun might be private, but it is important that those relationships are nurtured. And sometimes we don't need to talk about that so much, but it is important, that we do share that. Gallup will teach us, or Gallup shows us all the time when we talk about resident or employee engagement surveys, does someone at work care about you personally? Does someone at work care about you personally? And it is, I think, very important that more employees answer, yes, absolutely, I know this. And not only that, I have fun with the people I'm around, sometimes on work hours and sometimes privately after work hours. I think that is perfectly okay, as long as you have professional and personal boundaries.
That's a great point. And I imagine that if that's someone at work that cares about you personally is your direct report, that's probably the healthiest, because that's the person that you're answering up to. But at the same point, they understand you as a person, and they're looking at you as the whole person coming to work, not just the employee portion of it.
Yeah. And you see it, you've heard it. People don't leave jobs. A lot of times we've had people join our organizations for less than what they were making at other organizations, some significantly less. There's value in relationships that you develop, and I think in many cases the money just doesn't matter nearly as much as the personal investment we have in our team members.
That's really
it matters. Don't misunderstand. a good salary, a good wage matters, but it's not the end all be all for people who really want to make a difference in this work. And from my experience, those are the people you want working in long-term care, the people that really want to come and enter someone's home every day and be a difference maker and make their day every day. Those are the people that we really want, and we want to stay here and attract.
Yeah, absolutely. And in our field, it's so rewarding that you get to do that, to work in people's home and really help people and improve their day, improve their life. But I think that a lot of the rules not rules, but a lot of the points that you're making are probably applicable to so many other industries. In general, employment, if people are happy to show up to work, they're not miserable walking in the door, they're going to be more productive. They're going to be putting in harder work because they're motivated to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And smiling is a requirement. We introduce smiling when someone starts working here, they know smiling is a requirement. Smile and greet is the first step in our customer service training. And I'll hear that when people come to our community, they'll say, how is it that everybody's smiling? And I answer, well, it's an expectation, first of all. But second of all, it's because I believe for the most part, people genuinely enjoy working here and enjoy being with the residents. Now, are there times, not everybody is going to smile.
Right. You don't want it to be fake.
The whole time they're here. Right. And there's tense moments, and there's moments of stress, and there's moments, where you don't want to smile. But when you're publicly walking in the halls here, it is the expectation that you're smiling and you're greeting and you're saying hello.
How'd your smile policy work during COVID when everybody was masked? Were you just able to identify it by their eyes like creasing properly?
Yes, we talked about smile with your eyes. Smile with your eyes. You can tell. You can tell. But we did talk about that a lot. You can keep smiling with your eyes.
They say in the customer service world that if you're on the phone and you're smiling as you're servicing somebody, they can tell that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can feel it. When I was years ago here at Friendship Haven, when I was in sales and marketing, I put a mirror right next to my phone. So when I picked up the phone to make that call, I could see what my face looked like. And I had a little reminder in my mind to fix my face if I wasn't smiling. Smile before you dial. Yep.
I like that. So if we could just summarize. So we have personally, practically, publicly, and privately. Did I get it right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so those are the 4 P's for everybody listening. Check yourself at the door before you're coming to work tomorrow. Are those areas that you're focusing on to add fun and happiness to the environment? Because if you're not, that means you're probably missing out on motivating your team properly and making it the proper environment.
Absolutely.
So you shared an awesome tip, Julie, about dad jokes or any jokes, just lightening up the mood for a couple of seconds. It doesn't have to be long. A couple of seconds just before. There's nobody that's going to respond after that with a disgruntled comment, or it's going to be much harder for them to do that when the mood is already an enlightened mood. How are they going to start being grumpy? It's very hard to do. Any other tips you have for us, Julie, of things that somebody that's an administrator or somebody that's running a meeting in a community on their campus, what can they do to kind of make it a little more fun?
I would say my number one piece of advice is it has to be intentional, but not manufactured. And I know that sounds maybe confusing, but I think it's okay to have dress up days, right? And have the dress up days with residents. Now, I know that sounds kind of silly or juvenile, but it's a riot. I mean, and I'm saying not just on Halloween. We have spirit weeks and we have fun days where people dress up in silly hats or silly hairstyles or wear pajamas. It's a riot. It's just a fun thing. And some people are like, oh, I'm too this or that for doing that. Well, get over yourself. I mean, dress up. Wearing silly socks is not that big of a deal, and it makes people laugh. I'm a big believer, competition is one of my top 5 strengths. I said earlier, I'm a coach's daughter. I love fun little competitions, and they don't have to be anything too serious. But again, 5 minutes to start a meeting, a little trivia competition. People get excited about it. I mean, it changes the mood. It changes the energy. We don't need to dive right into this. We're going to start with a 5-minute, did you know, Friendship Haven history. Those are fun little ways to, bring a little bit more fun.
Those are good ideas. And obviously, these ideas do take a little bit of prep, not long.
Yeah.
A little bit of prep. Do a little Googling before the meeting. Get your trivia questions. If you're going to have dress up day, so maybe you should have a box with a bunch of clothes from last dress up day that everybody can dig into or whatever it is. It takes a little thought, but it pays off.
It pays off. I mean, this doesn't require a lot of prep work. It requires some, like you said, be intentional about it, but have team members bring in baby pictures. Oh my gosh, residents trying to figure out who's who. And depending on if you're my age, bring in high school graduation pictures. And residents, it can be something that residents and team members do together. We have residents that will bring in their, wedding pictures. We usually do something fun around love during Valentine's Day. Seeing the residents' wedding pictures and seeing our wedding pictures, it's fun. It's relatable. It's not so serious. And all that takes is just a little spark of creative energy. And I think we model that as leaders. A lot of the fun things that I'm talking about, I didn't come up with, right? I am not taking credit for these. But our team members know that I am passionate about this, and it's not something that, again, is manufactured. It's not something that started yesterday. It's a part of our culture for years. They know that they can come up with the most wild ideas, and they don't need to ask permission, right? They don't need to ask now, within reason. We've had some ideas that have been a little
the fire alarms and start running the hallways.
Yeah, but we do use Nerf guns and act like leprechauns, and the residents would shoot us with Nerf guns. Or one month we were deer, and they had the Nerf guns and they were shooting the deer. I don't know about that one, but oh my gosh, the laughter and that. Water fights. I've been drenched, and we've had huge water fights in the summer. And that's not just us. That's us with the residents. And it's so fun. We need that. We absolutely need that.
I agree. I think as an industry, not only do we need that, but we need it, like you said, show it out to others also publicly, so people realize that this is the environment, this is the culture that is going on here. It's not an institution. It is much more than that. And that's really special that you're really taking a focus about that. That's amazing, Julie.
We love old people. I think we're afraid to say that. And it's, you've heard all the negative jokes, kind of, all the, I don't ever want to end up there, or I don't, we've, I think, done a really good job. And when I say we, I don't mean just Friendship Haven. I know there are a lot of my colleagues in the field that are committed to this. Certainly people spend their last days with us. What an honor and privilege that we get to do that, and that we get to be there for them. But we are a place to live. We are a place to live and live loud, pursue life, again, with passion and purpose. This is a great, great place for people to experience life in a way that they haven't before. I believe in community. I believe the quality of life improves when you're around other people. I believe in the philosophy of a continuing care, community where we have independent living, assisted, and health center. And in all areas, if we aren't having fun, something's wrong is happening. Even in the most stressful times, even during COVID. You mentioned COVID earlier. Boy, we were having fun. We were trying as much as we possibly could. It was harder, right? We weren't together as much, but there were still times as team members that we were lifting each other up, and we were having fun.
And how do you introduce it? Let's say I'm right now in a facility. Oops, that's two. Let's say I'm in a community where this is not the culture. I just came in, there was a leadership change or whatever it is. I'm coming in, everybody's grim, everybody's disgruntled. I want to make that change. And obviously the tips of how I can implement them in the meetings and things like that. What about the people? Am I starting from the top down? Am I going out with making a lot of noise and say, guys, tomorrow this is all changing? How would you say, as a mentor of mine, you're telling me what I can do as a first step that's not going to get too much pushback, but something that's going to start leading us in the right direction?
What a great question, Steve. That is really a great question, because the last thing I would want is for somebody to listen to this, and jump off and say, okay, we're going to bring baby pictures and we're going to have fun. I wouldn't recommend that. I would say small things to try out and experiment with and play with would be certainly appropriate. But the number one thing I think that you would have to start with, and this is not an easy answer, this is a reflective answer, but I'm going to go back to those 4 P's. And the first one is personally. If you look at that scale of 1 to 10 and go home at the end of the day and you say, how much fun did I have today? 1, 2, 3. I would take the time to do the work and to ask why. Did you not leave your office and not have any interaction with residents all day? That's on you. There are days that we get bombarded with what we need to do, and as important as required, but the work is people. And if we're not having fun with the people, we need to look inside and change how we're behaving at work. So to answer your question, the first thing I think people need to do is to look inwardly and ask themselves, are they having fun in the work? And again, I'm not unrealistic. I'm not saying 8-10 hours a day is fun all day. There are times we need to be serious. There are times we need to buckle down. There are times we need to have really, really difficult conversations. That's another topic for another day, because I believe in, being direct is kind, but we can talk about that again. Right. Not everything is fun, but if there are 0 moments throughout the day when you're having fun, you got to ask yourself why.
That's a good point.
Did I not laugh all day? Even on the worst days, there's reasons to find joy, and there's ways and things to laugh, to have a laugh with someone. And if you're not doing that yourself, ask yourself why.
Starts with you. And I'm starting to realize that what you mentioned about looking in the mirror and smiling was actually an analogy. If you look in the mirror and look at yourself, am I happy? Am I exuding that happiness and that fun? It's going to spread to others, but it gotta start with you. You're the leader. You're the one that they're looking up towards and looking towards. It's on you to start pushing out the good vibes.
Absolutely. Good vibes. I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And good vibes spread to the staff, which reminds me that I saw, and I mentioned this to you, that you performed a small mini survey with your employees, and you found that some of your employees joined long-term care from other industries. They were drawn towards our industry because of what they saw. And that is right in the face of a staffing shortage that's going on in their industry. There are people that are getting burnt out from COVID and everything after that. How are you seeing that there are people that are actually drawn to our industry, and what can people learn from whatever is attracting those people that perhaps others can learn from and really show what there is here that other people would value?
Well, thanks for asking about that, Steve. And let me say, it's very informal. I can't remember, it was 8 or so of our new leaders within the last year and a half. And I'm calling it, a phenomenon. Now, is it a phenomenon? Probably not. But we've been hearing about the staffing crisis for long enough. I thought it was time to talk about and share. And that's what I did in these last 2 months in the December and January McKnight's blog that I put together. I wanted to ask these leaders that have joined us more in-depth questions about why they joined. And I did it just straight out of curiosity. I don't even think I was working on the blog. I was just, each of them individually had made all these comments to me, and especially about our culture. And so I really wanted, because here, we hear how long-term care, how our field, nurses have left long-term care. And we had that here. I mean, we had nurses get out of nursing, for crying out loud, with COVID. But if we're not talking about the good, all people remember is the bad. So when I asked these team members the questions, I mean, it ended up being just personally so rewarding to hear some of the things they had to say about, I know I make a difference. A couple of the team members said, I was perfectly happy in my job before, but I wanted something more. I just didn't know what it was. I have friends that work out at Friendship Haven. That's what prompted me to apply. No experience in long-term care at all. And they ended, you hire for skills, right? You hire for personality. You hire for intuition. You hire for that thing that people either have or don't have. And we've been really fortunate. We've hired some really great people, no experience in long-term care. And now they've turned out to be just a shot of energy for all of us who have spent our careers in long-term care, being reminded that we're on to something pretty special here. And it's just been a joy to watch them learn and grow and infuse their energy into life here at Friendship Haven.
So it sounds to me like it's a combination of the fact that they realize they can find fulfillment by working here. And it also sounds compliments to you that your staff are exuding happiness. And when they're speaking to their friends, they're like, hey, I want to be happy every day. And is it those two factors that you learned were really the reason why people were joining?
Yeah, I would say those were two of several of the factors. But let me just say this: the comments that I heard that landed the most were, we hear the word team a lot, right? Together, everybody achieves more. Yeah, cliche. Yeah. But the comments that I've been hearing, and this is from even other leaders that have been with us a little longer, but people genuinely want each other to succeed. It's not about what you can do for me. It's about how can I help support and encourage you. And when things need to get done, this team relies on each other. Nobody's throwing each other under the bus. I mean, people genuinely want the best outcome that we can possibly have, and they support each other. And that's been fun to hear, and not to everybody's, everybody has challenges, right? And I'm not saying anything ill to other organizations outside of long-term care, but there is a sense of I'm out for just myself, or I'm out to make myself look better. And in dysfunctional teams, that's a problem. And are there times that we're dysfunctional? 100%. Are there times that we could do better? 100%. But the foundation of who we are and what we do is that we genuinely want each other to succeed.
That's very important.
And have good outcomes for the residents. Sorry.
Absolutely. You need to have that. And I want to touch on something because you mentioned it, but kind of skirted it because you weren't sure if it's a good conversation. But I think it is important because I think there's a connection here. We're talking about having fun at work. We're talking about motivating our employees. Like you said, it's not always fun and games. It's not always pretty. Sometimes there are things that need to be done for straightening things out when there are issues. And you mentioned quickly, but I noticed it, that sometimes you need to give direct feedback. And I don't think that that's a disconnect. I think that because of the relationship you've built with your team and because of the trust and the connection that you have, when you're giving them feedback, it's not looked at as you're shooting a dagger at them, but it's actually accepted. And I would love to hear from you, from your perspective, because I believe that there's a connection here that would be valuable to other people to hear.
I believe that you can share almost anything with any team member. People really don't care about how much you know. I've been here at Friendship Haven since 1999. People could care less about that. What they do need to know and completely trust and understand is how much I care about them. So people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I know that is a cliche, but I believe in that. So giving people direct feedback, if they genuinely believe that you care about them as a person, Kim Scott and Radical Candor, or Kim Scott's work in Radical Candor, I'm a huge believer in. If it's coming from a good place and not a personal attack, but really genuinely meant to help you grow as a leader, I believe any amount of direct feedback is possible, warranted, and in many cases welcomed, right? People want to know what they can do better. I just believe as coaches, as leaders, we have to have the courage to deliver it.
But how do they know that you care? I mean,
that's everything we've talked about, building those relationships. I mean, knowing their background, knowing their stepping stones, knowing what motivates them, knowing their past work history. It doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to hire somebody and day 2 say, oh yeah, we trust each other. It takes constant work. And I believe if you're not intentionally working to build trust every single day in some way, it could be any number of ways, chances are trust isn't growing. Chances are you're hurting it. So, strength-based leadership tells us that people need 4 things from us: trust, compassion, stability, and hope. 4 things. What are you doing every day to provide or to build trust, to offer stability, to inspire hope, and to show compassion? If you can't answer that as a leader, again, look inward, because that's where it starts. So when you get in those moments where you have to have difficult conversations, that foundation is already there. But let me just say this. I have to be open to that too. So there are plenty of times that team members that I work with will come on in and close the door and say, hey, what you said during that meeting was really hurtful. And I have to be open enough and vulnerable enough to say, tell me more, rather than, no, it wasn't. I didn't mean to be hurtful. Well, it obviously was hurtful. And I have to be able to grow and learn from it. And I think that's the magic of leadership, man. That's what's beautiful about it, is it's always, it's ever changing, ever moving, but you have to be open to it and not be so set in your ways.
And it goes both ways. Like you said, you have to be vulnerable and be willing to take it when people bring it up to you. But what I'm understanding also, which I think every leader should understand, is, like you said, it's the foundation that needs to be nurtured always. It's not something that when you need to go ahead and admonish somebody, you at that point play the sandwich game where you say, you're doing great, but you're really doing great. It doesn't work that way.
No.
We call it in our office, our fundamentals that we follow are the 7 habits of highly effective people. So we speak about the emotional bank account. Where is their emotional bank account between the two of you? If you've been depositing constantly where they feel that you have put a significant amount of deposits, you can withdraw if necessary and point something out that may not be enjoyable to hear. But it's the same concept. And I think that, as you said, as head coaches, it's something vital that every single leader should be understanding.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. No, I agree.
So, being that you are the queen of fun.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I thought for the next little while in the podcast, we could have some fun by talking about something that would be interesting to people. Obviously, some people are watching this, some are listening. So right. we thought that maybe it would be fun to speak about what everybody thinks about when they're on a Zoom call or they're on one of these calls where they're like, what in the world is that thing in the background there? Is that a picture of their family? What does that mug say? Right? So let's talk about what's in your office. Julie, you got 3 stuff to talk about what's in your office. I'll talk about 3 stuff in my office. For the people that are not watching, let's try to be a little descriptive so we can explain to them what it is that we're showing on the screen.
Okay, well, I wasn't going to show this, but because I talked about that silly video series we did, here is my my Michael Scott my mug that I used on those videos. It was, I never had coffee in it, but boy, I was drinking it all the time.
We're going to try to get our editors to play the Office soundtrack as we're talking about this.
Oh yeah, world's best boss. So this is another just a leadership exercise. But also based on our conversation, I will tell you, I have on my desk a mirror. Yeah. Again, it's practical, to see if you have something in your teeth. But it's also, like you said, a reminder to me, and I keep it on my desk because it is a reminder to me that in my role, it does start with me. So before I walk out of my office, I do, is my face right? Am I smiling? Even in those hard days, this little mirror is a reminder that it does start with me.
Great reminder.
Yeah. Those are 2. I've got all sorts of stuff. How many do you want?
I want 1 more. We'll go for 3, and then I'll give you 3. But I think that everything that you have, it seems like there's a story behind, which I love also. It's not,
everything on this desk is a story for sure.
Let's get into the story.
So here's a third one, and this is a great one. And I'll describe it. It's a coffee cup. Instead of leadership, it says lead her ship. And the reason I keep this on my desk is because this was a gift from one of the leadership academies that fellows from one of the leadership academies. And it's just that reminder to me that, again, just like my name tag, leadership and lead her ship, of course, it's from mine always, even in the busyness. I will say this about leadership, just real quick, and this cup reminds me of it. Early in my career, I had a team member say, "We can't possibly keep doing all this leadership stuff Julie wants us to do." I think you said it earlier. It's so touchy and feely, and we don't have time for it. Leadership isn't something you do in addition to your work. Leadership is how you do your work. I mean, it's how you show up. It's who you are. It's not something extra. The team building, the humor, that's not extra work. That's a part of the work. It might take more time in the short run, but in the long run, it pays off.
That's a very important point, because I'm sure people are apprehensive. They're like, okay, I got so much to focus on now. Also do the leadership stuff. That just adds to my calendar and to my to-do list. It's not. It's just changing your to-do list and changing your calendar and changing your perspective. In your head, it takes up more space, but that's about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was a big hurdle, though. And some people really never get over that hurdle. We don't have time for team building. We don't have time for laughter. We don't have time to have fun. But really, we don't have time to not do those things, right? It's a part of what we do and how we do it.
I'm just saying, there's no such mug that says lead his ship. Just point to that.
Well, create it. Maybe you need to create it, Steve.
We got to do it. I'm going to go on Etsy and create one.
There you go. Well, maybe there is. It's pretty simple.
Yes, I can see how it can work. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of stuff.
All right, yeah.
I don't have any stories, but I'm going to show you what I got going on.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay. Firstly, if you see this is a finger piano. Finger piano I got for my daughter because she says sometimes you're stressed at work. You need a little relaxation. I don't know why she thinks I'm stressed at work, but this is a relaxing thing that I can do when there's stress at work. I am musical, and I think she's starting to realize if he's got a mini piano that he has at work, now I know why he has a full-size piano at home. But I hope
I love it.
that. But yeah, that's something. Honestly, it just reminds me of my daughter, which I love to have here in the background. I don't know if you see here, I've got a chess set
Yeah.
on the desk there. I don't really enjoy playing chess. I got it as a gift. I put it here because it's another reminder to me, actually. My father says there are two kinds of people in the world. People that play checkers and people that play chess. What he means by that is that people that play checkers, they're moving, they're jumping, they're working quickly. And that's a style that seems productive. But what's more productive are people that think a few steps ahead, think about what the others are doing, and a little more thought out, a little bit more composed, maybe slower, but you're focused on your outcomes. You're focused a couple of steps ahead, and you're much more productive that way. So it's a very good reminder for me. And I try to be, even though I don't play chess, I try to be a chess player in the way I operate.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to borrow that. That's great.
And
I love that, Steve. Yeah.
And the last one is actually something, Julie, that you've mentioned, but I got it out of one of the books that I've read recently. This book is called An Everyone Culture. I actually didn't enjoy the book so much, so I'm not going to tell you to read it, but there are a couple of stuff here which I thought, 2 points here, which I thought were worthwhile to read the entire book because of. One of them is a point that you mentioned, but I'll mention the other one first, is that they mention in the book that everybody that comes to work, not everybody, but there are people that come to work and they really are doing two jobs. The second job you don't even know of. They're not getting paid to do it. They're doing during the time that you're expecting them to work for you. What is that other job? That other job is covering up their mistakes or looking good for other people outside.
Oh, sure.
And it occupies so much of their headspace, so much of their time. If you were able to show them that you're welcoming, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. We all do. It's better to be transparent and try to figure out what we can do together to get to the outcome we want. You're going to eliminate all the time that your people on your team are spending on that second job, trying to make things look good and not look bad, that you're going to get more productivity out of them. They'll be happier, which I thought was very valuable for people that it would be applicable to. What do you think about that?
No, I love that. I love that. Transparency is a word we throw around, but to be, truly transparent, even when you do make a mistake, it takes courage and to say, I need to learn. I need help. That's not something that people often do. And so I love that. I love that. Yeah.
And I think, like you mentioned, as a leader, if you are nurturing the environment and the relationship that people feel comfortable being open about that, that's a home run, because then people will feel comfortable doing that. But the second point, which is absolutely on target with what you were mentioning in our conversation so far, is that sometimes we look at the people on our team that we're only looking at half of them, the part that comes to work. There's also their personal life, and there's also that personal connection. If you can build a relationship around the entire person, again, like you said, there are boundaries, and it doesn't mean everything has to be shared. But if you could build a relationship, be flexible when they need personal help. Ask about different areas that maybe they have challenges with, and maybe you can help them with. When you're dealing with the full person, they're showing up presently as the full person when they come every single day to work. And that relationship is going to be so much stronger. Those 2 points I thought were really valuable from the book, and I thought it would be worth sharing.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. I mean, we spend a lot of time here at work, right? We spend a lot of time here at work. And if team members don't know anything about you outside of who you are here at work, they really don't know you.
Right.
So, that, again, another reason for our name tags, because you are bringing your whole self to work. So I love that. I'm so glad you shared that, because I absolutely believe that as well.
I saw, just springing to mind, I saw by a recent networking conference that they did a similar thing with the name tags, where instead of writing where the person works or what their job title is, they just wrote what they enjoy doing. Again, it was an icebreaker, and it changed the whole networking event to something that stopped people from being afraid to go over to someone else. It's helpful in so many different areas. So if anybody's listening and it happens to be you're not in healthcare, you're not in our industry, I'm sure there's a lot of information that would be very helpful for you to implement and utilize in whatever path that you are going down, because I think what Julie shared today about having fun, about enjoying it, making it a place where people are happy to come to work every day. People are happy, and I'm not going to say facility, but happy in their community, happy in their campus, wherever they are. It's going to bring productivity so much higher. The big problem now is retention. If you realize that there's a retention move that you can make that doesn't cost you anything, that has great results, like you mentioned, some of the surveys that have been done, it's so worthwhile to invest. Doesn't even cost money. Invest time, invest your headspace in thinking about it. It could be before you start your day, at the end of your day, over the weekend. Figure out what next steps you're going to do to implement. And Julie, if anybody wants to reach out to you, because they may, is there any place that people can reach you or find you on social media or anything like that? Or Friendship Haven?
Yeah, actually, just go right to Friendship Haven. I'm connected there, and like I said, our marketing director is on top of everything with Friendship Haven. But my email is julie.thorson@friendshiphaven.org also, and I will absolutely respond. I might just add, maybe Steve, this is a good closing thought when you
Sure.
to add to what you just talked about. Advice, I have really tried to steer away from drive-by, how are yous? How are you doing? I think, and how are you doing? Good, great, good
Will,
weekend.
I'm asking you. Right.
Yeah,
That's a great
yeah.
point.
Oh, I did my work. How are you doing? I checked in with them. No, to sit down, close the door, face to face, and take time to say, how are you doing? Genuinely, and listen. I mean, we're all hungry for that. We want someone to just listen. And I think we're so quick with drive by, how are yous? And so make time for how are you and really listen.
And what happens if when you don't do a drive-by, how are you? And I pull them into my office, but as I'm talking to them, I'm glancing at my emails on my cell phone and then glancing at them. Is that still good or no? Oh man, I'm doing it all wrong.
Boo, boo, boo. That says I'm checking a box and I'm not really interested. Put your phone away and really focus on the person. Yeah.
This is so difficult, Julie. I'm going to try my best. But really awesome tips. I think it's more a model of how to think more than anything else that I hope we try to bring people to, and I hope that they get something to learn out of it, because I think it was very productive.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate being asked.
Well, thank you for your time, Julie. It's really been a pleasure. It's nice to get to know you, and I wish you a lot of luck for you and your team and a lot of continued success.
All right. Thank you, Steve, so much.